Hello, this is Cuckoo. I'm at Schreibmaschines booth here at Super Booth 2025, and this is Schreibmaschine.
Hi, yeah, I'm Lavendel, and aka Schreibmaschine, and I'm coming out of hiatus after 2 years, and bringing back a lot of new modules. So all of my old modules are getting reissued, and I'm also developing 4 new modules that are almost ready, and I have 2 years of ideas that I'm now trying to make as quickly as possible. So I can walk you through a little bit of what's new. I have one new entry in my Turing-compatible logic system. So if you weren't aware, all of my older 3U modules are all compatible with the Turing machine ecosystem. So Turing machine expanders work as expanders for my Pulsate, and all of my other modules work as expanders for the Turing machine. And each of them also works as standalone devices. And the new one is the Mixteen, which is a 32-channel mixer in 4 HP. So there's 16 channels on the front and 16 more channels on the back, accessible by the Turing bus.
Is that basically a summing sort of?
Yeah, so it's a unity gain mixer for the case when you have a lot of signals and you just want to sum them together so you can start processing them as one signal through a filter or whatever you like.
Yeah, nice.
It has 2 outputs, so you can split if you want 8 left, 8 right, or all 16 together, or all 32 if you're using the bus on the back. In the last few years, people really liked my sequencers in the 1U format.
Yeah,
so
I saw that. It looks wonderful.
So these have been a real technical challenge to reissue for a number of reasons, but I'm very close to a solution and just testing those solutions out now. So they should be available within the next few months, finally. And I have a new entry into this series, so this one's not quite done yet.
But these are just very short sequences.
Yeah, so 3, 5, and 7, which you can use to get kind of evolving rhythms if you're doing a 7-step sequence for your filter cutoff and an 8-step or 16-step sequence for your melody, then you'll get a polyrhythm and your filter will kind of evolve.
Yeah.
It will sound different every measure.
And there are direct changes, right? It's no slew.
Yeah, there's no slew. You can get a slew limiter as a separate module from other people, but my goal has always been trying to make a utility that's very useful in the smallest possible size. And so the new one's no exception. I have the BIDI-8, which is not a prime number, but it's an 8-step trigger sequencer with only one knob that you use to scroll between all 256 possible combinations of 8 steps. And you simply have a click in and a trigger out. So it's a very, very compact, I believe 8 HP module for getting all kinds of rhythms. So if you just want to noodle around with the knob until you find a rhythm that you like, then you can use it to rhythmatize anything. So in a very small format, so stuff that you would normally maybe just feed the clock to, you can now have a little bit more of an interesting beat pattern to it.
Do you kind of manipulate the patterns yourself?
So it's simply counting between 0 and 256 in binary.
I see.
So internally, it's still an analog circuit. All of my modules are still analog only.
Yeah.
And so internally, it's just an ADC converter. So the knob sends a voltage to the ADC. It turns that voltage into binary, and then I sequence that binary number.
And you see that.
So it'll be using the binary step sequence.
Cool.
And I'm also known for my logic modules. So I have the Brainiac, and Pulse Blender, which are both 8-input logic modules. And so I've also decided to make a much simpler logic module, the Discrete, which has only 2 inputs. So it's a classic Boolean logic with the 6 possible outputs for Boolean logic. But sometimes you don't need 8 inputs. Sometimes 2-input logic is all you really need. So I also tried to make that one as compact as possible. And you can use that for things like if you have a random trigger sequence happening, but you want it to be on the clock, then you put both of them, like the clock and the sequence, into the discrete and take the AND output, which will make sure that it triggers when both the clock and the random rhythm are high. So you can kind of take something that's a little bit more chaotic and quantize it to the beat, so to speak. Or what I'm doing now is just feeding it 2 really fast square waves, and you can get kind of. Oh, sorry, that was the binary output. You get this one.
Yeah.
So classic kind of Game Boy sounding noise oscillator, right? And then the different logical outputs will sound a little different depending on what you're feeding them. So yeah, there's a lot of ways to use the logic module, or any logic module for that matter. The Brainiac has 8 inputs, so you can get much more complex sounding noises, like the one that I accidentally triggered a second ago.
It's insane. Wow. Sounds like a radioactive
Geiger counter.
Geiger counter or something.
Yeah, the fun thing, this is all coming from the binary expander, which is an expander to the Brainiac. So the Brainiac internally has an analog computer that can do a ton of calculations. So there are more expanders coming to give even more logical outputs. So this one is taking all 8 inputs from the Brainiac and sending them out as a binary coded decimal.
Oh, wow.
So if you have 5 of the outputs are true, then the 4 and the 1 will be true.
Yeah.
And so how this acts practically is that your each sequential bit will trigger only about half as often as the one before it.
Yeah.
So in some ways it kind of acts like a clock divider, but there's no clock. It's like a theoretical noise divider of sorts.
Yeah.
So if we send quite a fast signal, you can start to hear I'll start sending, like, the 1 will sound like this. So a very fast digital noise.
Yeah.
The 2 will be about half the frequency of that. And then the 4
approaching Nintendo 8-bit. Oh.
And then the 8 will only trigger if all 8 are high, which can be very rare depending on the pulse width of the modules.
Yeah.
You have to get pretty high pulse width before you'll get an 8. Oh. Okay, we're not lucky today. But yeah, so it is a fun way of playing with sound. One of the things that I do when I make drones is that the sharper your initial source is, with the more square edges on your waveform, the more things your filter will have to sort of grip onto and resonate. So square edges always sound interesting through a filter with a high resonance. So we can hear that here, where this noise is coming from the pulse blender, which is doing combinational logic out of the 8 outputs of the pulse 8.
Yeah.
And so it's triggering when combinations of 2 are currently high. And so you get kind of a more complex, very sharp sounding waveform. And then that means when you send it to a filter, like ripples here, you'll tend to have a warmer sound in the end from your filter, the harsher the sound is that you're sending into it. So a lot of these logic modules can be used to make those harsh tones that you can then filter down into something a little more warm, resonant, and evolving. And if you start to send it some audio rate signals and some non-audio rate signals. Then the non-audio rate signals will modulate, because of the logic modulation, those harder signals.
I keep looking on the side here. You got a wonderful like kit of your stuff. Is this something you offer? Is this something you can buy, like
the cases, I'm not sure if they'll be available for sale. I'm trying to figure out what they would end up costing and how much labor goes into them, because they're actually quite labor intensive.
Yeah.
Even though the 3D printing robot is doing all of the work. There's a lot of standing around and changing prints and changing elements and so on.
Well, there's something about the design that is just so lovely.
Yeah, I have made them for friends and other artists. So I'm thinking about it.
Yeah,
I'm exploring the possibility of doing that. And I also have these. If you have a 3D printer, you can follow me on printables at Schreibmaschine. I can't remember if it's Schreibmaschine.Berlin or just Schreibmaschine.
Yeah.
But you can download the files for these drawers if you want to have little business card or sticker drawers for your modular at home.
Wonderful.
And
what we see here, this is a totally different project.
Yeah, so this is a DIY kit that I'm working on, and it's an expansion to Breadboard Friends from Mutable Instruments. So Mutable made 4 of these different connectors to help her with module design, and but unfortunately the project wasn't supported very widely, so only a few others were manufactured by other manufacturers.
Yeah.
So I've making somewhat of a spiritual sequel to Breadboard Friends, which I'm calling Breadboard Friends with Benefits.
Yeah.
So I have quite a few modules, which are individual components that don't necessarily fit on the breadboard, like my little sliders, and then you can plug them in and design your own module. I'm also making this back panel called Full Control, which has a whiteboard on the back for designing your front panels, and the Full Control itself is actually soldered to the back of each of the breadboards.
Nice.
So power distribution is actually handled for you, so you can plug the entire thing into your eurorack power, and then all of your power rails are powered, and the modules you can plug in will give you new interface options, and it keeps your designs much, much tidier. I am also working on a version for guitar pedals, which will have like a bypass foot switch, and all of the guitar pedal input as well, so you'll get the 9 volts and ground typically used by guitar pedals.
Like for beginners, if a total beginner would start with something like this, is there good documentation for how to get started, or do you have to have
it's
like
all
a certain
in progress,
level?
and so I want to make documentation for it as it develops.
Yeah.
So I think right now the first version of the kit will probably just be all the parts and kind of assume that you know how to solder everything together and know how to use them. But as if there's a lot of interest in the project or people want to get into it, I could also see taking popular common module designs and just showing how to do it. Like, here's how to do the layout, and through that DIY, you could then learn electronics for yourself. So I'm definitely open. It will all be open source, so if other people also want to make documentation about, hey, here's my module, and here's how you would build it yourself on the Breadboard Friends with Benefits, then or the Full Control, then that's definitely available.
Nice. Yeah. Anything in particular you feel like we forgot to talk about?
One other module that's also not quite done yet, but the design is ready, is the Paradiddle, which comes from drumming.
Yeah.
So from analog or acoustic drums. I have a background in drumming and other musical instruments like mandolin and banjo, and so I try and bring some of that knowledge here to eurorack, because I was kind of surprised no one's ever made, or I don't think anyone's made, a paradiddle module. And paradiddles are one of the first rudiments you learn as a drummer. It's a pattern of left hand, right hand that goes left, right, left, right, right, with an accent on the 1 and the 5. And as a drummer, you learn this kind of magic tool that you can apply to different parts of your drum kit. Like, you know, you first learn it on just the snare, but then you start learning how to apply it to fills or to your regular beats and deciding which drums you want to send your left and right hand to. So this module will accept a clock input and will alternate that clock between the left and right outputs. And you have an accent knob, which you can use to control the CV that comes out during the 1 and the 5 accents.
Nice.
It also has a reset input, so if you don't want it to always be a step of 8, you could perhaps send a % chance that it resets. Like maybe send a you know, from a like a flip-flop module to say, okay, there's a 10% chance that it sends to the reset, and then you'll have a more chaotic version of the paradiddle, essentially. So I'm really excited to use this in my live case and excited to see what other musicians do with it. And if there's interest, I'm already working on other drum rudiments and other similar ideas in that kind of space. So expect to see some more from there.
Yeah.
And yeah, like I said, I've got 2 years worth of module ideas, and I'm just trying to release them as fast as I can. Just kind of coming out of hiatus and very active. I'll be at every convention I can make this year, and just trying to get the word out that.
So where can people find you, and if they were to be interested in the modules and everything? Right.
So Schreibmaschine.Berlin is both my email, my website and my Instagram, so you can follow me on both places. There's a sign up for a mailing list on my website if you want to be notified when new modules come live or where I'm going to be if I'm coming near you. And feel free to send me a message if you want me to come to your local synth event, do DIY workshops, because I'm now doing this full time, so very excited to be more active in the scene than I have been the past few years.
Very cool. Well, best of luck to you.
Thanks so much, Cuckoo.
Yeah, thank you.
Always great to see you.
It's lovely to see all of this. Love to see you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Ciao.